Today I'm going to show you how to make a twisted double crochet lace stitch. So let's start. So here I'm using 4 mm hook. So let's begin by making a slip knot. I'm going to put even number of foundation chain stitches. Okay, make sure that you are putting even number, any even number plus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I put 12 foundation chain stitches, plus I am going to put one more foundation chain. Okay, so total 13 foundation chain stitches I've put. So let's move on to the next row. So let's begin the first row of the twisted double crochet lace stitch. Okay, so what you have to do is skip the very first stitch, chain stitch, and you have to start your work from the second chain stitch. Okay, so skip the very first chain stitch and have to insert your hook into the next, the second chain stitch, and have to do a single crochet stitch. Okay, so we have to finish this entire row with single crochet stitches. So I finish this row with single crochet stitches. So let's move on to the next row. So let's begin the next row with 2 chain stitches and turn your work. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that 2 stitches, the very first stitch and the second stitch as well, and I'm going to start up from the third stitch. So yarn over and insert your hook into the third stitch. Okay, so skip 1 and 2 and insert your hook into the third stitch, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, the next what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double crochet stitch into the previous stitch which we skipped. So yarn over, and you should not insert your hook this way, the normal way. What you have to do is you have to insert your hook in this way. Okay, I'll show you one more time. You should not insert your hook this way in the normal way. You should insert your hook this way. Okay, you have to go behind and have to insert your hook. Okay, insert your hook like this. Okay, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so now you can see a twisted double crochet stitch. Okay, let's move on to the next one. You have to skip the very next stitch and have to insert your hook into the next stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch. So yarn over and insert your hook into the second stitch, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, Next one, also a double crochet stitch, but as we did in the beginning, you have to find the skipped stitch which is over here, and have to do a double crochet stitch, not the normal way. You have to go behind and you have to insert your hook. So yarn over and insert your hook like this, okay, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so we got one more twisted double crochet lace stitch. So we'll move on to the third one. So yarn over and skip the next stitch and insert your hook into the second stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the next or second stitch, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, next one, next double crochet you have to do into the skipped one. So yarn over and insert your hook into the skipped stitch, okay, and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so this is how we have to finish the entire row. In the end of this row you can see 3 stitches, right? Remaining 3 stitches, right? So 1, 2, 3. So what you have to do is you have to do the last twisted double crochet stitch into the second last stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the second last stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch. Next one, into the skipped stitch. So yarn over and insert your hook into the skipped stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so next what you have to do is you have to do a normal double crochet stitch into the last remaining stitch. Okay, so yarn over and insert the hook into the last stitch and you have to do a normal double crochet stitch. Okay, so this is how we have to end up this row. Okay, so we finish the first row. Let's move on to the next row. So put one chain and turn your work and insert your hook into the first stitch and you have to do a single crochet stitch. Okay, so insert the hook into the first stitch itself and you have to do a single crochet stitch. So you have to complete this row, entire row, with single crochet stitches. Okay, so here I finished this row with single crochet stitches. So let's move on to the next row. So put 2 chain stitches and you have to turn your work, and let's do the same thing as we did in this row. What you have to do in this row is you have to skip the very first stitch and at the second stitch as well, and you have to insert your hook into the third stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the third stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, and into the previous stitch which we skipped, into that stitch you have to do a double crochet stitch. So yarn over and go behind and do a double crochet stitch into the stitch. Okay, so we got our first twisted double crochet stitch in this row. So let's continue the same way. You have to skip the next stitch and insert the hook into the second stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the second stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, and next double crochet stitch into the skipped stitch. So yarn over, go behind and insert the hook into the skipped stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so this is how you have to end up this row. So to the last one you have to put a normal double crochet stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the last stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch, a normal double crochet stitch, not the twisted one. So let's move on to the next row. Put one chain, turn your work and you have to do single crochet stitches across the end of this row, the entire row. Okay, so insert the hook into the first stitch itself and have to do single crochet stitch. You should not skip any stitch. So continue doing single crochet stitches. Next one should be twisted double crochet lace stitch row, and after that a row of single crochet stitches. So you have to continue this way alternately, the twisted double crochet stitch and the single crochet stitch. So next one you have to put twisted double crochet stitch, so that you have to put 2 foundation chains and have to turn your work. So here you have to skip the first and second stitch and you have to insert your hook into the third stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the third stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch, and next one should be inside the skipped stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the skipped stitch like this and have to do a double crochet stitch. Okay, so next one you have to skip the very next stitch and have to insert your hook into the second stitch and you have to do a double crochet stitch. Next one into the skipped stitch. So yarn over and insert the hook into the skipped stitch and have to do a double crochet stitch. So you have to continue this way the entire row. Then you have to put one chain and have to do single crochet stitches So alternately you have to do twisted double crochet stitches and single crochet stitches. Okay, hope you all learned how to do twisted double crochet lace stitch. So if you like this video, please do like, share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So thanks for watching. Bye bye.